Hey everyone, Detain here with some tips that will help you be a better tank in a 5-man dungeon. If you've ever played as a DPS or healer before, you can appreciate the difference between a good, great, or bad tank. With TVC coming out soon and 5-man content, specifically heroics, providing more of a challenge, I wanted to put out a video with some tips to improve your play as a tank. While I'll primarily be showing from a protection warrior point of view, these tips will mostly apply to any tank class. The first tip is marking kill targets. I know this seems basic, but I still see so many tanks that just charge into packs without marking anything and expect DPS to figure it out. It splits DPS, making things die much slower, which in turn makes you take more damage and healers use more mana. DPS are also far more likely to pull threat off you if they don't know what to attack. It can easily be set up in the menu under key bindings, target markers. Personally, I have every marker keybound so I can quickly put them up and swap them as needed mid-combat. But even just having 1 or 2 bound, so you can give DPS a target to swap to, will improve your tanking significantly. If you're taking nothing else away from this video, at least take this one tip. Keybind Skull and use it. If you just put up a skull, at least they know what to attack. With the skull and an X, they now know what to transition to immediately after skull dies with no delay. Anything beyond that is helpful for CC that you can assign at the beginning of the dungeon. If you don't have them keybound, it takes far longer to right-click on it, select the target, and get the correct one. It's very easy to fall off the menu, and then you have to open it again. Our next tip has to do with pulling. Moving on top of packs is the preferred method since you'll have proximity aggro and will be able to start doing threat abilities right away. However, you should only run on top if the spot is safe and there are no mechanics that would cause them or a player to pull additional packs. Using line of sight to pull back is a great tactic if you need to group spread out ranged targets or the spot they're in is dangerous. When pulling back, make sure to use abilities such as Battle Shout or Consecrate on the path that they run to you to ensure that you're on their threat table so that a healer with a hot or a DPS that casts a buff doesn't immediately pull threat off of you. Specifically for warriors, a thrown weapon is great for pulling since it has no cast time. This makes pulling quick, moving patrols a breeze, and you don't have to wait a few seconds for your gun or bow to fire before every pull. Number 3 is positioning. Running through mobs so they spin their back towards melee means your melee won't get parried, and they will do more damage, and as a result, you'll take less damage since there won't be parry hastes. Now, melee can also run around to the back, but since you're pulling and you're going to be in position to be in front, there's little reason you shouldn't actively be trying to have all the enemies you're tanking pointed away from the group. This is especially since many of the enemies in 5-mans have a cleave element of some kind. On to kiting. Knowing when and how to kite is one of the best skills a tank has at their disposal, and it can greatly reduce the amount of damage you are taking. Earthbind Totem, Frost Trap, Blizzard, or Piercing Howl can make controlling large groups much easier. Even if you don't have any of the previously mentioned crowd control, applying Hamstring will help. With a full range DPS group, you can also switch to more of a goalie role, where it's okay not having threat and everything. Make sure you're grabbing the ones that are getting close to the ranged DPS and healers. Taunt them back into Blizzard, or snare and stun them. Specifically as a warrior, you have Intervene, which while a great ability for saving someone about to take a hit, it can also be used defensively for yourself. If you get low on health and it doesn't look like a heal is going to land in time, you can intervene out to buy a second or two for a heal to land. You can also combine it with an intercept to back in for additional time. Self-preservation. Staying alive is just as much your responsibility as it is the healer's. Use the tools your class has to stay alive. If you die without using Last Stand, Disarm, Concussion Blow, Health Stone, Health Potion, Shield Wall, Lay on Hands, Bubble, Frenzy Regeneration, or Bark Skin, you probably could have survived till the next heal landed. Developing a reaction and gut feeling of when to use these abilities leads us to our last topic, which is awareness. Perhaps this is the hardest of these tips to quantify, but in my opinion, it is the most important. Constantly keeping a lookout for ads pulling, noticing that the healer hasn't caught up, doesn't have mana, are things you need to keep an eye out for. As a tank and a 5-man, you'll become the de facto leader most of the time, since you will control both the pacing and what you're pulling. Knowing what your group can handle can be a bit of a trial and error in the pug. You should start off using all of the available CC, but if things are melting, use less. If your healer is constantly full mana, you can pull more, pull bigger. You don't want to be the tank that goes overboard in CC if it's not needed. It's just going to frustrate your DPS and healers, and they're going to be bored. It's going to also increase the time it takes for you to clear that dungeon. Being aware of where patrols are and how they roam so you can pull around them or skip them in heroics so you aren't pulling more than you need to is something important to learn. Some of these can only be learned over time through trial and error, but there are many videos out there that go over instance-specific skips. I hope all these tips were helpful. If they were, please like and subscribe, and comment on any other tips you might have. In my next video, I plan on covering useful macros and add-ons for tanks. You can also find me streaming 2 to 3 times a week over on twitch.tv/detain_. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.